Hello, and welcome to Apropos. This is our show about closure, where now we're having a nice weekly guest because the people have spoken and that's what they want, and we listen to people. So, on the panel, we have Mia, I'm Eric, and our special guest today is Bobby. How are you doing, Bobby?
Awesome. It's really great to be here. I'm a long time fan of the show.
Thanks for being on. We're so happy to have you. I've got a list of questions that you've seen, and just gonna go through them, and we're trying to shake it up a little, make it a little more visual. So I'm gonna ask you to share your screen when there's something to see.
Oh, that's good because yeah, I've got a couple of things to show here. I was hoping that, I mean, it would have been fine if we just talked, but visual is good.
Cool.
Yeah,
So
we
can
will.
you demo your editor setup?
Yeah.
We are no
Well,
longer asking what's your editor of
Yeah, we
choice.
don't just
We
want
are
you to talk
now
about it. You gotta
asking,
show us.
show us, show us your editor.
well, up until I found out I was going to be doing this show, I was just using Zed, the built-in Linux text editor, kind of like
Oh,
and I wasn't really writing much Clojure, to be honest. I use it for my own scripting language in my music software,
oh.
which actually runs using my own toy interpreter that turns out it just happens to work great for what it is. And so, but we'll get to this later, I'm sure. But I ended up rewriting the thing in Clojure using Squint, which compiles to ES6. It was originally a JavaScript application because I didn't want to come on here and be like, well, it's not really in Clojure, but it uses Clojure for the interface. So I wanted to have a little bit more than that, and it was an amazing experience, really. And I see myself using Clojure more now.
Okay, well, this is actually doubly good because we had a question. I don't know if this was your example, but later on in the list, there's one of like, do you have a apples to apples comparison of one language versus Clojure? And you do. You rewrote your JavaScript in Clojure.
Yeah.
Is it better?
Well, it's that is to be determined. To be honest, it's really interesting because Clojure was kind of my first language.
Okay.
Not like exactly first, but the first one where that I really got kind of good at, where I can learn how to think like a programmer. Kind of to be able to get to the point where I have an idea, I want to make something, and have some idea of how I would do that. But the problem is it expects you to be familiar with the host platform, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where I got kind of tripped up.
What do you mean by that?
Especially, was it?
What do you mean by that? Like you mean by with the JVM?
Well, actually, it was when I used JVM Clojure, I basically just ignored all of that. I didn't get too deep into it. It was when I got into Clojure Script
Uh,
and
Yeah.
having to do like web applications and doing stuff like audio stuff with the Web Audio API,
uh-huh.
and it was really tough. And you've got I never once like looked at the compiled output of Clojure script because it just wouldn't have meant anything to me.
Yeah, it's
Hmm.
So I did some work for Clojurists together um, to work on exorcism because
mm,
I developed the Clojure syllabus on exorcism and the tooling on there,
Oh,
and we were gonna. I wanted to make an inline evaluator for the site,
Mm-hmm.
and so I needed to it uses CodeMirror 6, and so I needed to write a plugin, and it had to be in JavaScript, and I just had the worst time. Like it was like, what the hell? This whole ecosystem is just. I at one point I was considering just paying someone to do it for me, so that I wouldn't have to deal with it. But when I finally started getting into it, and I had my it was a port of Clojure mode by NextJournal, and I had like an almost kind of heretical thought that I liked the JavaScript version better
Oh. All
because it
right, you're
was just
gone. Let's just stop the
it,
show. It's over.
it was translated from Clojure, so it was just functions, but it was just so straightforward. This modify this. It's all just very organized. And I never actually went back. I became a JavaScript developer for about a couple of years, up until this project here. So I couldn't get very far with Zed. It doesn't even, it has a Lisp syntax highlighter, but it doesn't even do like bracket matching, which is kind of mandatory.
Hmm.
And it didn't have a syntax highlighter for Clojure, which is I could deal without that, but I ended up going with Sublime Text.
All right, another one we haven't seen before.
That's true. Yeah. Sublime text.
We've never had that so far. We haven't had the same answer twice.
That's true.
Yeah.
In our new
Now
version
there
of
is
the questionnaire.
there's a Clojure plugin for Sublime Text. I think it's called Clojure Sublime. I think
So can you, while we're talking about your editor, can you show us what?
yeah, actually I'm looking around in here trying to find the oh, it's right there. It says share on it. It says that you need to enable screen sharing.
Try it again.
Okay, here we go. Now
There we go. Okay.
all right. Now
I like the gradient.
what we see right here, this is actually my editor.
Oh.
In the application that that I use for making music. I plan on showing this at some point, and I'd like to say that this is what I use all the time, because it's actually I'm having a lot of fun building it at this point. So it's kind of funny because I ended up doing that port of NextJournal's Clojure mode, and then Mikhail did the same thing. Well, he ended up porting the entire thing to Squint so that it would be available to use from JavaScript. And so it turns out that whole thing I didn't even, if I had, well, it didn't exist at the time. But that means at this point, I just switched to using that. And so now I have all of the structured editing commands. So I can, do stuff like I can slurp and bark.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You wrote that?
Which is kind of well, I didn't actually. This is using the NextJournal Clojure mode JavaScript package, and I disabled paredit. As you can see, when I enter a paren, actually it does it there, but when I do it like this, if it's next to another thing, then it doesn't.
Right.
With paredit installed, it does it the right way.
Yeah.
But I just cannot. I cannot stand. I can't stand the enforced parens. I have to be able to delete a paren if I want to
I am
without doing
also a
something
private
special.
disabler. Yeah, I am
I
also a private disabler. There's dozens of us, I'm sure.
Yeah. Yeah. I
I I get it. Like people want to have their parens balanced all the time, and there's fancy ways to deal with that. But I, especially like if you're making something that's going to be used by people that don't know those structure editing commands, I consider it a hostile feature.
yeah,
Like I just
definitely. Definitely. I taught a closure workshop, and that was one of the things we learned. We were using Parinfer, which the nice thing about Parinfer that I understand that a lot of people don't like it, but for a beginner, they're having trouble. They're like they've got I mean, even a beginner, 20 lines of code in a new language is a lot to like to get right. But the workshop, I and the other people helping out could just look at the screen and be like, oh, this is not parenthesized right. And just hit space and it would just fix it. Just like move move it over to the right and it'll get a new paren or it'll like pop out of the paren or pop into the paren automatically. And we weren't counting parens on people's screens and stuff. It was just the parentheses and the indentation were in sync, right? Um,
yeah, I remember Zach Oakes saying something similar where he was teaching a lot of beginners closure, and that was always frustrating until he found that. So he started uh, building PowerEdit into all of his teaching tools by
mm,
default,
hmm
or PowerInfer rather.
Parent for, yeah, yeah. Okay, well, sorry to interrupt. You continue with your demo.
So yeah, so this is like my little baby that I'm developing. Um, it's kind of half finished right now. It doesn't even have undo apparently because I'm just switching it over to use the the full version of Clojure mode that Bork dude ported.
Mm,
Looks like you got drums here.
yeah.
And also, this doesn't have access to my file system, and it's only really good for editing one file at a time. And so this is what I use for actually writing the code for the application. And it's Sublime Text. I'm not actually using the the plugin.
The
Uh,
closure plugin?
no, I'll probably try it at some point, but like I'm not even running a REPL because I'm using Squint to compile this
Mm,
stuff.
yeah.
And so there's a Squint watcher, and then I'll just flip to the compiled output to see how it worked. And so this works really well for me. It has paren balancing, which is and it's nice and pretty too. I like this purple color.
Yeah, so this is Sublime Text. I don't know if I've ever used Sublime Text.
I
Looks
use it
fine.
for JavaScript.
Okay.
And I should be using VS Code for JavaScript, but since I don't actually write JavaScript, I just read it. I really like the way it looks in Sublime.
I think it was popular kind of right before I started programming. When I started programming, I think Atom was like the new thing,
Mm.
and it kind of was in the same space.
Yeah. And so you don't have any like cool plugins or anything. You're just typing it all in raw.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So what is this what we're looking at that JavaScript file? Is that the output of
Oh,
the
this.
or
Um.
is
No,
yeah.
actually, I'll show you the Squint output, and it is really great because like I was saying, how I never once looked at the compiled Clojure script output. because not only did I not know JavaScript at the time, but it's also like the JavaScript that it emits is kind of weird. It's almost like uh, not so human readable, even if it's formatted, because it's specifically designed to work with the Google Clojure compiler. But
Right. But
Squint is
Squint is more straightforward, right? It's like
yeah,
more
and
trying to.
if you write it in such a way that that you don't have to call into the Squint core library a lot, then you're basically just writing JavaScript.
Got it.
And yeah, I can show you that here. And what I would normally do is like go to Prettier and so that I can look at it formatted. And what I want is like the online Prettier. Oh yeah, it is here.
Okay.
I don't have it integrated with the editor, and because I don't use it very much anyway. But yeah, so
So that's the output right there. Got it.
it also kind of Prettier messed up my tables, which were actually nicely formatted there. So thank
Uh-huh.
you.
And so but do you have the original JavaScript version that you wrote that you would like
Yeah,
you could compare?
that's in a different application.
Can we also see your Z setup?
To see what?
Your Z setup?
Oh yeah. Actually, I have that open too. Let's see, one thing at a time. The old it's called Lispy Tunes, is my music software.
But you were writing in JavaScript?
Yeah, there's several versions of it now. Because I made one called Lispy Loops, which is uh, designed for more like live coding, where you're like where it's playing all the time. And so it's meant to that you're composing in the context of a performance.
Mm-hmm.
But then I looked at Strudel, which is a really popular one. It was originally written in Haskell and then ported to JavaScript. And I read the docs for that, and I was like, oh boy, I don't think I can call my thing a live coding system anymore because this has so much stuff. And the whole point of my system is that it's just so basic that it's not like a choose a phone ensemble as Rich Hickey called it.
But
It's
when you're on
it's
stage,
more
sorry,
was it?
but if you're on stage with one or two instruments, like that's still a performance.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, so let's see. It's my yeah. So this was my original 6502 CPU.
Wow, you wrote an emulator for the 6502?
Yeah, well, this I ended up adapting this from a really good code base that was in JavaScript, and I almost thought about using that for the question coming up about a delightful code base because it's because that was written so clearly that I was able to get a working emulator.
Okay. Wait, but you wrote this, but based on like inspiration from another project? Is that
I basically just took his project and I I got rid of all the objects because
uh
I don't like seeing this everywhere. Like I just don't. Uh,
I see.
and so I kind of rewrote it in my own style.
And then
And
you
I
rewrote this in Clojure script?
Yeah, so now I actually understand it, which is great. Like I said, the advantage of it being in Clojure now, I think, is mostly just nerd crud,
Yeah.
because it's cool. But I'm not sure if I'm really getting that much benefit over just writing it in JavaScript, because I'm not afraid of JavaScript anymore. That's the
Got
thing.
it.
I
What
I don't I
what
when
was the
when people speak of JavaScript being painful, I'm just like, what? Like, what's the problem? It's just JavaScript.
thing
Um,
is, but you're writing very functional JavaScript, like you said that you felt like the closure wrote good JavaScript. Uh
yeah,
the
yeah, it
change
can be very functional
Yeah,
when you
the
want it to
danger
be.
to other people's code bases who have only haven't worked in a functional code base before and battling object-oriented JavaScript.
Sure. And then there's, I mean, not to like just trash talk JavaScript, but it all the tooling stuff, like the constant churn of like now you got to learn this, now you got to learn that. It's
Yeah, that's what
yeah.
really messed me up getting into it, because we have multiple JavaScripts, and if you don't
Hmm.
know how they all interact, and how to, if you find a project that's in the old JavaScript, how do you convert that to ES6 if that's what you're doing?
Right.
And I'm still just barely figuring it all out.
So, okay, so can we see the Clojure version and the JavaScript version side by side? Like the
Yeah,
handwritten JavaScript and the handwritten Squint version.
Did you feel really good writing it in Clojure? Was it fun?
it was really amazing. It's almost like it feels like it shouldn't work because it's so much fun that it almost like it almost feels like a joke at the time. Like, no way this is gonna work. But with Squint, it's cool because you can compile it along the way and actually see. Now that I understand the JavaScript, I can, and I had the old one to compare it to. Now, it took a lot of
So,
careful optimization. For a while, I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to get it fast enough. Um, I tried um, I tried official Clojure script first. Well, even before that, I tried to use my own interpreter, and I got it working so that I could load an NES ROM and save a WAV file of the music, which
oh, wow.
actually has to emulate the game.
Wow. Does it play the game or is it just like the start screen
It's
music?
Nintendo sound files, NSF files, are a type of ROM. It's a binary format
Uh-huh.
that's ripped from the game code, where they take the assembly code from the cartridge and restructure it so that it just plays the songs from the game.
Oh,
And then they make like a table of contents, a track list, so that you just load a number for the song number into the accumulator, and it'll play that song.
wow. So wait, so before we might want to get to that, but can we see the Clojure code for this CPU side by side?
Yeah. So that is, where is it? I'm not.
Is it CPU.cljs?
Oh, yeah, there it is, right there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I did some really cool things. I think they're cool anyway. Like this thing right here. Should I make this bigger? Let me see. Font larger. Oh, it's Control Plus. Like, there's a lot of places where you have to. There's a program counter, which is an index in an array called BR, is an array for the registers, and so
Okay.
PC is the index, and so you have to get the address of the program counter and increment it, but then use the old value so that it's like the C style post increment operator.
Uh-huh.
And this was like really awkward to do in Clojure because it's not geared to let you like modify stuff. But I ended up making a function called PC++, so that I can just do CPU read, and it kind of looks like the JavaScript equivalent.
Right.
Or it's
Right.
BR PC++. And so that is just because you have to like to save the old value, so you have to make a let binding and use a get to get the old value, and then I have an inc PC that gets the old value, increments it, and then sets that to the new value.
Mm-hmm.
And so that does that right there. Some people might think that's kind of gross, but it made me really happy.
Um, so any like are there any things that were an advantage for using Clojure for something like this?
Um, there might be, but I haven't been able to reap those benefits yet.
Okay.
Because it's still really early on in my re-entry.
Got it.
But I suppose that there will be advantages. I
Mm-hmm.
just don't know what they are yet.
Yeah.
But it's definitely a lot more fun. And I actually learned how the emulator works because, and so now it feels more like it's really mine.
Mm-hmm.
And it was great to, well, just using Squint is really amazing. And the Bork dude was actually improved the compiler based on some questions that I had. Like, it would have to, for doing a get, it would have to call a library function for that. But now it just actually just compiles to the JavaScript where it just sets the index of the array.
Uh-huh. Wow, that's cool. I mean,
And
I'm
so yeah, this looks it uses its own truth function so that we can have like the truth semantics that we expect,
mm-hmm.
and that's not any performance penalty. What was a performance penalty was using swap. Actually, originally I was doing it by swapping atoms, and that was really slow because an emulator is kind of a different kind of thing where you're the NES runs at 1.7 megahertz, and so you are running a function in real time, and it has to modify a bunch of variables in the process. And so every swap would have to do this whole little dance, and
Right. Every time you incremented the counter, the pointer counter, like you're
yeah. So
swapping.
I changed it to just using regular mutable arrays,
Mm-hmm.
which is more like how the original JavaScript version worked anyway.
Right.
Now, I never imagined that I would be writing an emulator. To be honest, like it was always kind of a fantasy thing because I was so shocked when I found out that that's how NSF files worked. Uh, I just kind
What
of
is
innocently,
NSF?
it's the Nintendo sound format.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Uh, I just kind of innocently wondered how could I get Nintendo music into my program because I wanted to interface with as many music formats as I possibly could. So I wrote like a music XML parser and then learned how MIDI works a little bit, and so that I could import MIDI. And so we're going like from the human readable to the MIDI is a binary format, and so
Hmm.
then that way then you're dealing with like hexadecimal and stuff. But then
Yeah.
the NES thing, it turns out it's not even a format. It's a program that
Right.
is written in 6502 assembly.
I just want to just take a moment to wonder at how fast our computers are that we can run an emulator in a VM on our machines and it is still faster than the original.
And it's just considered normal now.
Yeah, and like
Uh,
you're not
uh,
doing any like crazy optimizations, like getting down to your assembly code, and like you're just writing it in a readable, like readable code.
a lot of things use emulators when you wouldn't even realize it, like music players that play chiptune formats like SID files, NSF files, and VLC will handle all of those.
Mm.
And
So wait, so
so it
you're saying
actually,
VLC has to have the emulator inside?
yeah, it uses some kind of. I think I know exactly the one it uses actually. Uh, And
That's cool.
so, yeah, this was just a fantasy for a really long time. And my first version of this music program didn't do any of that. I was actually just building the audio buffers by hand, which was really cool. 'Cause I always wanted to learn how you would do that, like just to make like a triangle wave with just math.
Hmm.
And so it turns out that's pretty easy, but I was hanging out in the NES dev community and just learning more and more about all the intricacies of NES audio. And eventually, I just kind of bit the bullet and said, well, maybe let's see if I could. Well, I found that emulator, and it turns out it just worked when I was able to adapt it in my program. So I was like, wow, okay, so I use real emulation now.
So now I feel like we need to hear some music.
Yeah, yeah, I wanna hear it and I wanna see the thing that made it.
Yeah, so I have like a tutorial thing, and if anyone wanted to follow along with that, or actually rather use it at some other point, like after this, the program is called Lispy Tunes, and it's on Codeberg, and there's a live app, and there's also a tutorial that I made, which takes you through making the theme music for Zelda, which is really cool and it's really simple. Can you play? Can you hear that? Is
Yeah,
that
it's
Yeah.
coming through. Yeah, yeah.
So
yeah?
the triangle it means a triangle wave shape. You're not the real.
Yeah, and this one has an oscilloscope,
No way.
and so these are just vectors. The first the first number is the length of the note in frames. Frames are 1/60th of a second. And then these are MIDI numbers, which I recently added, well, just some note constants so that I can do like, I don't know what note it is. Oh, it's B. Oh, it's B flat. I don't normally use the I'm not used to using the note names in the octave format, but some people requested that. Um, the only users that I know of, like based on the feedback I've gotten from this, is actually from the blind community,
Oh,
Really?
which it wasn't exactly my my intention at the time. I was building a UI. I made like a Mario Paint clone, which is really cute. It shows Mario bouncing on the screen, and you enter the notes on the staff with the mouse. And then at some point, I was like, could I just like script my music engine, like just hack my program so that I could write the music just in Clojure code? And immediately I was like, oh my God, this is more fun than actually using this UI that I just spent a year building. Because you define just a little motif, and then you can make that a function, and then transpose it to a different interval, and try to make it like as elegant and compact as possible. And so yeah, that's when I ended up doing programmatic music. And I also I have one hand, and so I have kind of poor dexterity, and so UIs are just really annoying to me. Uh, there's a great program called Famous Studio, which does something very similar to this, but it's like a really nice like piano roll editor.
uh-huh.
But I get frustrated with it because I always hit stuff that I'm not supposed to, and oh no, I didn't want to do that. But it turns out there's a huge population of blind chiptune composers that really need something like this, because the popular applications are just really hard to use if you can't see.
Huh.
Because
So
they're
I,
all
you
I,
just like point and click
looking at a
GUIs. Is that
I
why?
could
yeah,
show you a picture of well, Furnace is a tracker that is like a modern one that everybody uses. Let's see if there's just a screenshot. Yeah.
oh, yeah, but yeah, that's busy. That's really busy. I
So
mean, it
it's basically a spreadsheet for music. Each row is a certain number of ticks, and that represents what note is playing and that note's attributes. But if you're blind and you get into this, you're just kind of on your own. You have to like tab through and just kind of guess where you are.
Uh-huh.
So you
can
made
imagine, yeah.
something that was accessible to you as a person who has trouble with UIs for one reason or another, and there was this whole other group of people who had trouble with UIs for a totally different reason that were like, this is the best thing we've ever seen.
Yeah, so there's been quite a bit of excitement over on Mastodon, because there's a big blind community on Mastodon. And I feel kind of bad because I'm not an accessibility expert. I just hate UIs. And well, I did hear an accessibility expert say that if a program or a website is annoying, chances are it's not accessible.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's not like not always true.
I mean, there's like But I'm sure it's a lot true. Like accessibility just makes things better for everyone who uses it, whether or not they have a particular reason or like I don't know. I can't see faces. So the convention of putting alt text on celebrity faces, like putting alt text on everything in Blue Sky, like now I know celebrities. Now I know which celebrities people are talking about because there's alt text on
Oh
there.
yeah. Yeah,
Like
it's a
I can see
great
their
place
face.
to like explain the context of
Yeah,
something.
yeah. I don't have to be like, who is this? Like it's right there. And like I'm not the target audience for alt text, but it really does make things a lot less annoying for me.
Yeah, so now it's now my task ahead of me is uh, to try to make this actually accessible, and it's really I've been kind of wrestling with this because I just don't know how Clojure would be for a blind programmer. Because like wouldn't you kind of need to see like the whole magic with Clojure, as opposed to like there have been some other efforts to bring like the REPL driven workflow. Like this is a package for Emacs that I think uses Tree Sitter to make it so that you can evaluate stuff. I saw this on Reddit a couple of years ago, but you have to it defaults to like evaluating a line at a time. Or I think you can highlight something and evaluate that. And F sharp has a similar thing. The F sharp language actually has an article on REPL driven development, which I thought was really cool. But that's the only way that it works is you have to highlight the code that you want to evaluate. But the magic of Clojure is that you can instantly see the I can do this to get that vector, or this to get the outer form, or I can do the entire cell. I just don't know if blind people would be able to use this.
Right. You mean to position the cursor exactly in a certain spot? Um, is that what you mean?
Yeah, like dealing with the parens.
Yeah.
Um,
I know.
we appreciate the parens because of the way that the advantages that they give in interactive evaluation. But I wonder how much of that is based on sight.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who use spoken commands with Clojure. Uh,
Hmm.
so we had a dev on our team at a place I worked at who did a whole presentation on her her like full voice input.
Oh,
So
it was Emily. Emily something.
it's actually someone different.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's definitely people who are speaking Clojure into a machine. Uh,
Oh, well,
Including the
that is interesting.
parens, including the
yeah.
That's right.
braces.
I remember Arne was doing something like that because he was having I think repetitive strain issues. And
Yeah.
he actually did. He has a video on YouTube, I think, of him kind of struggling with it.
Yeah, carpal tunnel is a real danger for us,
Hmm.
and it shouldn't have to be career ending or closure ending. So I wonder, I don't know enough about how, like, what tools blind people are using uh, to do their editing. But if they're using spoken tools, if you have anyone who's got a verbal workflow for this, then probably work pretty well.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think of that Clojure is already probably being successfully used with something like cursorless or Talon is the other one. Talon's the one that Arne was using, I think.
Can I does it do square waves?
Um, yeah, it does actually, and so I have this little tutorial here. Um,
Wow.
that's the Zelda melody.
Can you see what these?
But here I add vibrato. So this is a pitch envelope.
Oh,
So it's each frame it modifies the pitch by a given number of well the period units, which it's governed by the chip actually. Like in the 6502 has it's 11 bits that make up the period value, and so then they're divided into notes. So going 1 unit in the high register will make a bigger difference than in the low register because frequency is logarithmic.
so
But
your
this
envelope there is it's got like a classic filter shape. You're gonna go pop, pop.
Yeah, can we see this with the visualization there? The oscilloscope?
well to tell you the truth, it actually doesn't run very well while I'm streaming.
Oh.
My poor computer like can has trouble running this and doing Zoom at the same time, and so I got around it actually by disabling all but these two channels, and so I planned on doing a just a thing with the triangle and the noise channel
Okay.
to kind of demonstrate a little bit of what isn't in this tutorial, which is drums. The Zelda theme is great, but the drums are almost non-existent. It's just like a little hi-hat pattern. Oh, actually, it's not.
So
Here's the.
what's doing the reverb there? Is that the vibrato?
That is actually. Yeah, I'm glad you noticed that. It's two channels playing on top of each other, slightly offset. And so as we see here, oh, what's going on there?
That sounded like it was the noise.
Yeah, so it's this square instrument is a function which creates the melody sequence, and so here we're just doubling it with a 5-frame rest, so that it's playing 5 frames later.
An echo effect that sounds like reverb. It's simulating reverb using an echo.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Huh. Can you
What's even more impressive is that you can do it with just one channel. By doing a trick where you play really short notes, where you can express the melody with notes short enough that you can put the echo notes in between, and you make the echo notes a little bit quieter, and you can actually do echo with just one channel. So yeah, one of my favorite things about composing for the NES is doing sound design, like specifically drums, and so I wanted to show how you would do that using a popular method called triangle kicks. This is actually a noise kick. You know what? Let me do the triangle first because well they're called triangle kicks and or triangle drums because you do snares too. This is a function called K just for it stands for kick. That way it's nice and short and it takes a length and it produces a 4-note descending arpeggio of 1 frame each. And at 60 frames a second, that's actually kind of just enough, like to perceptually make the effect of a sliding note.
Okay.
And then it you can enter the length like 20 frames or something because it makes it that way you don't have to worry about adding a rest afterwards. And so it pads it with a rest for you. So the play function is the entry point to the compiler, and it takes a sequence of maps, and each map is a pattern. That way you can have multiple patterns, and it'll automatically deduplicate them for you and make it so that you don't have to, because most music contains lots and lots of repeated sections. And so each,
They're loops. They're loops. It's you're initializing this with a loop of this triangle kick. You're
well,
missing
this
a
is it's defining a pattern. Oh, why is it not playing?
You need a close paren at the
gotta
end.
close your paren at the end after play.
Oh, thank you. Okay, yeah, that was really fast.
Wait, I heard it. Wait, can you do it again? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so that
you could
is
dance to that if you had a rhythm.
It sounds just like a drum machine. Oh my god, I love synthesizers.
it's the tone part of a kick drum, which is like the if you think about the way a drum works is you strike the head and it makes a descending note because it goes doo. But it needs to have noise in addition, and we'll actually see why if I put this along with a bass line. And here I have a bass line that is to be played on the triangle. And it's just a quick little cover of Brand New Cadillac by The Clash that I just did yesterday. Yeah, that's is a simple bass line.
Okay,
And
so that we know the 10E3, but what is the what's R1? What does that mean?
oh, that's a rest. It's a 1 frame rest.
All right, that's the rest. Okay.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be. It wouldn't even be like individual notes. It would be one solid note.
Yeah.
Okay, so then we need the rest of the triangle drums, and I made a multiplex function, which actually makes it really easy to put the bass line and the drums together. If I can find where this is. Ah, yeah, here it is. We also need a snare. And that's just the same thing but moved up a little bit. The the snare starts at MIDI number 70 and goes down to 54. And then we would use this here, which this is our drum pattern played on the triangle. And then, so what I can do is pass this to multiplex. And the first, oh yeah, I have slurp now. The first argument is it takes two music parts, and the first one is given priority. And so I put the drums first, and then the bass line second, and it does. And it's not so bad here because it's just quarter notes, but it's also not that great because the bass line is interrupted very briefly by the drum, since it's just being played with one channel. But it turns out there's a psychoacoustic phenomenon called the illusory continuity of tones, where if we have a tone that's ascending, or it can be descending, or just continuous, and it is interrupted with a gap, if you cover the gap with noise, then the mind fills it in for us, so we still hear a continuous tone. Or if you could hear it without the noise, it would have a real obvious gap in it. And so what I was going to do here is add the noise pattern, but this part is usually kind of annoying because I just pasted this in, but normally you would be typing this out by hand, making this rhythm, and then you would have to make the same rhythm to play on the noise channel. But then I realized what I could do is just make define like a data structure. So that's our drum beat, and then I have a couple of translation functions. One for the noise drums and one for the triangle drums. And it just outputs the right thing. And so then I can just pass the same data structure to those. I can't find where I have that, so I'll just do it live.
Bogus says having a sudden uncontrollable urge to play Zelda. I'm having a sudden uncontrollable urge to play those. I don't I have to go do my job after this.
So the noise will be noise drums. What is it called? Noise drums. Did I evaluate it? There's something funny going on. Let's see what.
Yeah, Robert Johnson.
That's
That's
I didn't bring in my noise drums, which are here.
We've got Robert Johnson in the chat. Loves the demo. Says all your guests should show demos. Yeah, we've been talking a lot about how to make this more of a visual medium, and we're gonna be getting a lot more demos going forward. So this is a great one to start with.
Yeah, this is really cool.
If you want to do anything with audio, you be prepared for kind of a bad time. I
You
know
seem
how
to
to
be
do it
enjoying yourself.
now.
Oh, I love to make noise. I don't like noises, but I like to make the noise.
Yeah, noise is great. So this is the NES generates noise with a linear feedback shift register, which is just a really simple it's a 7-bit register that the bits just get toggled in a certain way that it generates a pseudo random sequence that happens to be like really good for making white noise for music. And so I have 4 drums here, a kick, a hi-hat, a snare, and an open hat. So the white noise is generated, and then it is played back at 15 possible sample rates. And these are defined to the numbers 0 through 15. Oh, this needs to be a sequence. Oh, what happened to the whoops? I think I need to define a volume. Yeah, there's no volume for the triangle channel because it's the volume. What would be the volume control is used to store the wave table of the triangle, if you will. The sequence that makes the triangle is just a counter that goes to 15 and back to 0. So, but the other channels have to have a volume. So let's see. What happened to my sound? Oh, my did I accidentally mute this or something? What's going on?
Possibly your computer is just too tired.
Uh,
I,
what about
it's
reloading the browser?
it's playing. I don't know
Can
what
you copy this stuff and because yeah, I don't hear it either.
I'll try oh, okay.
Wait, it stopped again.
Okay, so yeah, I was just showing the noise real quick. So we'll set the volume at 7 is just something that won't, it's going to sound like static. So for say 40 frames. Yeah, so that's 0, which is the highest pitch. And 15 is the lowest pitch, which kind of sounds like thunder or something. It's used in video games for like explosions. And so yeah, these are just 4 patterns that happen to work well that simulate some basic drums. And let's see if I can play that. I don't want to spill the beans on the entire composition.
Oh yeah, we have gone over our time. So we will not allow you to spill the beans on the entire composition. But
Maybe you could just play it for us. Oh
Yeah,
no,
we can
those
just
drums
wrap
sound a
this up.
lot better with that noise.
it does.
So that is just the white noise.
It's funny, that sounds more like a snare to me
And so
than
now,
the
then
snare.
we, yeah, so those are, that's our triangle drums.
Cool.
And we can hear the whole thing all together. Now it transposes it using this. And then
That was cool.
all right, so yeah, that's
All right, that was
and I've got a whole bunch of compositions all on my music on my YouTube channel. Like probably about 20 songs or so that I've made with this, with oscilloscope renders. So we'll put a link for that in the
Yeah.
description, I'm sure.
yes.
Is there anything else
We'll
you'd
plug
like to
that.
plug?
Well, the places that I hang out all day, the NesDev community, which is really amazing, is where these people know so much more than I do about everything, graphics, and then the Chiptune Cafe, which I'm a moderator over there, and it's just a really fun community of people who are into this stuff. They're both Discord servers. The NesDev community is more work oriented. Like it's not really a place to socialize. It's a place to go and ask questions. And but the Chiptune Cafe is just really fun.
I know we're trying to wrap up, but I just have one question about this. You showed this UI before of this sequencer of like you called it a spreadsheet of the different tracks of the different instruments playing. Um, when I see that, the first thing I think is like I would much rather be able to call a function called transpose on a sequence and have it change it in some way instead of having to manually do that. So like I don't know what the question is, but it seems like that your the coding approach is much more superior. It's clearly superior.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean that's because you're a programmer.
Uh-huh.
It might be a tougher sell to uh, someone who might be considering such a thing, but they don't know how to use code.
Right.
And as easy as Clojure is, it's still a big ask. But for blind people, it's a smaller ask than having to learn a program that's designed for sighted people.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
Yeah, that UI that she just showed, is it looks a lot like the UIs that are in like GarageBand and like the ones that aren't free. I forget what they're called now because I'm very tired. But it looks a lot more like a traditional audio design interface. But that's what they all look like.
So,
Yeah, trackers are really popular in the chiptune community.
I remember using those back in the 90s when they were still like terminal based. Fun though. Okay. I'm trying to wrap this up. So do you have anyone else you'd like to see on Apropos?
I was thinking of Sam Ritchie.
Oh,
He's developing a computer algebra system in Clojure, which is really cool, and I'm really excited about it because I think it could potentially. I've always wanted to see like more math people use
mhm.
Clojure because I think that they would enjoy the benefits of an expression-based language.
Cool.
And
Um,
I was trying to learn math by like writing my own thing back before this existed. And so now he's coming around and like doing it for real. So that's really cool to see.
awesome. Awesome. Yeah, we'll have to have him on. I do also want to apologize that we didn't get to your transducer. Um,
Yeah, I kind of got carried away with that
well,
because it was a guest. It was somebody. It was another viewer. It might have been last time or something. Someone said in the chat that the best way to understand transducers is to implement them, and so I thought I would do that. Um, but that'll have to be another time.
yes. We'll have to have you back on to show us your transducer implementation.
We let the first one get away.
Yes.
But this
Oh,
was you've successfully distracted us. This was a treat and a half. Thank you so much. I love sound. I
it's very
really like.
cool system. Very cool.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's a huge honor coming on here, especially like so early in the sequence of guests. Like I figured that you would wait a little longer to have me on. You know, between people like some of my heroes like Alex Miller, Alex Engelberg. Are there any other Alexes?
Only Alex's from now on. Only Alex is on the show. So, uh,
Yeah, it's great to feel like I've got something interesting to show the community.
It's true. It's awesome. And I'm gonna make sure to link to the Lispy Tunes project in your YouTube channel so people can check it out.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Be sure to like and subscribe and see you around.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks for coming on.
Okay, where's the end?
Okay, we're done. Thank you so much, Bobby.